up. So let me ask you all in the chat then. Yeah, no, I got to get together. I don't know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? It's trying to rush home after work to get this thing going, and it's just technical difficulties up and down the board. And it's probably my stuff. It's probably not even Tony. It's probably my stuff. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. I see in the chat, people. I know Tony was saying earlier that game showed that we could compete. That was our first time being at full strength. You know what I'm saying? And I do agree with that. First time being at full strength. I think it does show that we can compete. I think that the Celtics are so tough to deal with because they have so many offensive weapons. You know what I'm saying? And they have offensive weapons that are more consistent than our offensive weapons. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a big key to this series. A big key to this series is that they are consistent. Now, obviously, they have chemistry. You know what I'm saying? They know what it is that they're doing. They understand themselves as a team, and the Knicks are still learning that. You know what I mean? So I do think, that's kind of where they have the upper hand, in my opinion. It was kind of where they had the upper hand, and it is, I don't know. We're going to need Mikal Bridges to be consistent. We're going to need OG to be consistent. We're going to need Cat to be consistent. Cat wasn't consistent in that Detroit series, right? We're going to need him to be consistent in this series because you can't rely on everyone else, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Let me see if we can get Tony back in. Any luck, Tony? I still can't hear you. I don't know what it is. It's probably my machine down here. You know what I'm saying? Don't know exactly what it is that's happening right now. You know what I mean? The consistency is going to be key, I think, though. The Knicks can't have droughts. We've been known to have droughts. We had a lot of droughts versus the Detroit Pistons. A lot of them. You know what I mean? We would take a 15, 16-point lead and then drop off. And all of a sudden, we can't score the ball for nothing. We cannot have that in this series against this basketball team. Because if that happens in this series versus this basketball team, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble. You know what I mean? So we've got to be consistent, and that worries me. It worries me. Can we be consistent against this basketball team? That's something that bothers me. You know what I mean? We're gonna have to rebound the ball. They're a decent rebound. They're a good rebounding team. We didn't rebound well against the Detroit Pistons. I think, game 5 we rebounded well. We lost the game 5, but we rebounded well in game 5. I think we've got to rebound well against this team. You know what I mean? They're much more defined offensively. Much more fluid offensively. They know where they want to go with the ball. If we are not able to rebound against them, grab some offensive rebounds, Mitch is going to be important. Grab some offensive rebounds. We're going to let them get out and run, and they'll be able to punish us, right? They're not going to turn the ball over. Not like Detroit did. They're going to be smart with the ball. You know what I mean? So we've got to take advantage of everything. Anything we can take advantage of, we got to take advantage of it against this basketball team. They got people who can score the ball, right? So when it comes to us being efficient, we've got to be efficient against this team because they're going to make us pay on the other end. We can't turn the ball over. There's a lot of things that go into this playoff series, but I'm going to say this, though. I think the Knicks are ready. I think the Knicks mentally are ready and prepared. I think that the Detroit Pistons series put them in a different mindset. I think it, I don't want to say it woke them up, but I think it put them on edge. They're used to playing at a certain level of intensity right now because of that series. You know what I mean? And I think they're going to bring it into game one. Right? Because I think their eyes are wide open like, okay, it's the playoffs. Not that they didn't go into the playoffs that way. I'm positive that they did. You know what I'm saying? I'm positive they came into the playoffs like, okay, let's get it. But, sometimes you got to experience it as a team. Experience it as a team, in order to play under those conditions and perform under those conditions. You know what I mean? So I think that the Knicks I think they figured that part out. I think we're going to see them come in with a lot of intensity. I think we're going to see them come in playing a lot of defense. I think that they are mentally tougher because of that series. I think that this team is as ready as they're going to be to compete against the Boston Celtics. I don't know if they're playing as ready as they're going to be this season to compete against the Boston Celtics. I don't know if they're playing at top level right now. You know what I mean? I don't know if they're playing at their pinnacle or at their peak or anything like that. But as ready as they can be, I think they are. Because I think one of the biggest things they needed to do to be ready was the mindset. And I think that Detroit Pistons series put them in the right mindset. You know what I mean? I'm looking forward to see what this Knicks team is going to do against the Celtics tonight. The first game of a series is usually that one when the underdog team, can have a chance. People say, they can get the first game. I think this Knicks team it can be primed to get it. They can be primed to get it. Both teams are coming in fully healthy. I mean, it's healthy. Both teams are coming in as healthy as you would expect them to be right now. Everyone's going to have some nicks and bruises. Shout out to Tony. Right? Everyone's going to have some nicks and bruises. Right? But both teams are coming in healthy. The Celtics coming off of, a little bit more rest than the Knicks, but the Knicks still got some rest. All right? I'm glad that the series started tonight and not Sunday, Saturday, or Sunday. They got a chance to get some rest. Maybe get on the practice floor a little bit. And, maybe there's a little bit of an advantage for the Knicks that they did play an extra game because, maybe they don't have rust to knock off. Celtics may have some rust to knock off. I don't know. They might. But the Knicks should be coming in pretty fresh still and maybe still sharp from that Pistons series. Kevin said, you don't believe Holiday is healthy. Yeah, he may not be fully healthy, but he's healthy enough to play today. You know what I'm saying? You had to believe that he was going to play. There's no way he wasn't going to play, in my opinion. It's primetime series. He was playing. There's no doubt about that. I think that Mitch being healthy is going to be a big key in this series, right? He was a key in the Pistons series. His offensive rebounding came on late in the series. He had a couple of moments where he was able to spread the floor vertically. I think the Knicks had a couple of moments where they tried to force him the basketball. I don't want to see that. You know what I mean? Let it happen naturally. Don't want to see him force the basketball to Mitch. I think that his ability, Tibbs, I don't want to say experimented, but used the double big lineup against Detroit. I think we're going to need to use that. We may need to use that double big lineup a little bit against the Celtics. If you happen to see Horford and KP on the floor at the same time, you may need to use that double big lineup. Right? That double big lineup, it can work. I mean, it'll help us defensively. It'll help us as far as rebounding the ball as well. Does it help us offensively? We'll see. We'll see. But both teams are coming in fully healthy. Right now, when we talk about the lineups, obviously, the starting lineups, I mean, in both units, you can say the Celtics maybe have an edge offensively. That first unit, with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, Jrue Holiday, Derek White. They got offense all the way around. You know what I mean? When you look at our lineup, Bridges, OG, Cat, Brunson, Josh Hart, we should have offense all the way around too. Ours can be a little bit less consistent though. I'll say that. It's the bench where there's the biggest concern. They definitely have shooters coming off the bench. We know this. Right? And they got a lot of production that can come off that bench. Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, Luke Cornett. I hate to say it, but Luke Cornett produces for them. Rebounds the ball. I mean, been catching oops. Like, what? He can knock down the three. He can be productive for him. But Sam Hauser, that guy is a sharp shooter from the outside. Peyton Pritchard can do some damage. And our bench just has not been strong in the playoffs. Just hasn't been strong. Deuce has not been able to produce. Campaign had his first game was, he helped the Knicks to win that first game. But since then, he hasn't really produced. Nobody, Mitch has helped. He's not going to help you offensively much. Nobody else is being used. Right? Shamit's not being used. Precious isn't being used. Now, there's questions as to whether or not Precious or Delon Wright will be used. I doubt it. I don't think they're going to be used. I know some people are saying that they should be, and you're probably right, but Tibbs isn't going to use them. Tibbs Tibbs. He's going to have to be in dire straits before he uses those guys, I think. But, maybe he surprises us. Let's see. Because Deuce had a rough series against the Pistons. We barely even seen a spark from him. Barely even seen a spark. And the Knicks are going to need Deuce. They're going to need Deuce against the Boston Celtics. The Knicks will need a spark off the bench. That's just it. They need a spark off the bench. The Knicks need to be able to score. And if the bench can't score, if the bench can't give us a spark, if Deuce can't give us a spark, then there's more minutes for the starters and more pressure on the starters to give us that spark, right, to continuously score. So it's a tough task for the Knicks. There's no doubt about it. It's doable, though. They got to stay focused. They got to come out. They got to play with they got to play with the type of edge they played with in Detroit. And I think they're bringing that into the game. I do. But they got to play with that kind of edge. They were forced to play that way against Detroit. Now they got to maintain it against the Celtics. Now, when we talk about matchups, they're not favorable. They're not favorable. But everything isn't always just about talent. Right? It's not always just about talent. You can overcome talent with hustle, with grit, with desire, with heart. You can overcome talent. So the Celtics have more talent than the Knicks. The Knicks got to have more fight, more heart. And they proved they can do that against the Pistons. But when we talk about matchups, right? One of the things I just seen mentioned in the chat is Jrue Holiday guarding Karl Anthony Towns. If that happens, we got to take advantage of that matchup. Yes, I know Jrue Holiday is strong lower body. May not fully allow Karl Anthony Towns to back him down. That's okay. All he has to do is shoot over top. Shoot over top. Give the ball to Karl Anthony Towns when he has that type of a mismatch. Cat needs to get 20 shots a game in this series, especially they put Jrue Holiday on him. Especially. He's got to get the ball. He's got to utilize his matchup against him. Right? That's one matchup. Now, they'll probably have, Derek White might be playing Josh Hart. They'll probably put some length on. I don't know. It's hard to say. No, I'm sorry. They'll probably have KP on Josh Hart. My bad. If they're going to have Jrue Holiday on Cat, then KP is likely going to be on Josh Hart because he's the least offensive player that also gives him the ability to roam. Tony brought this up the other day. Gives him the ability to roam and block shots. That means Josh Hart has got to be effective in knocking down shots when they come to him. Right? If he's open, shoot it, knock it down, especially if KP is roaming. I think then, you maybe Jaylen Brown on Brunson, Tatum on OG or Bridges. Derek White, probably Derek White on Bridges, Tatum on OG. We'll see how they decide to match up. Now, on our side, we've got to figure that out. You know what I'm saying? Because one thing that scares me about this team is the pick and pop with KP. How do we defend it? Who are we defending it with? You know what I'm saying? Who are we defending that pick and pop with KP? Because that pick and pop that they have is devastating. No doubt. It's devastating. And if we don't defend it, KP will drop 30 on us. Without Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, one of those guys having 10, 12 assists. It's KP. So we really got to defend that pick and pop. Who do we defend it with? I guess Cat will be on KP. I don't know who else Cat is guarding in that first lineup. So he'd have to be on KP. So Cat, he's not the best defender and he's not the best pick and roll or pick and pop defender. That concerns me. Right? That definitely concerns me. So we really need for, Cat's got to be on point. And we need our help. Guys, whoever's supposed to be helping the helper needs to be ready. right? Then you got OG and Tatum. Maybe Derek White and Mikal Bridges. Derek White and Mikal Bridges. And the reason why you can get away with that, although Bridges can shoot over top of him, Bridges isn't that. It's not like he's strong. It's not like he's gonna bully him. You know what I mean? So Bridges is still gonna shoot the same shot, right? Boom, 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 fade away. Same thing. So, we'll see how those matchups look. I'm more concerned about how the Knicks match up defensively than how the Celtics are going to match up defensively against the Knicks. You know what I'm saying? Because I think they have a little more versatility defensively than the Knicks do. So tough. It's a tough series, but again, it's doable. Fred Wong, thank you for the super chat. He said the biggest concern is coaching. We have the talent. Proper offensive and defensive schemes is crucial. This roster was built for Boston. Let's go Knicks. I'm sorry. I don't think we have as much talent as the Celtics do. I don't. I think that. I just don't think we have we don't have as much scoring talent, to me, as the Celtics do. I don't think we have the chemistry that the Celtics do. As a team, the Celtics are a team that's been through the fire. The Celtics are a team that's, they've been where the Knicks are right now. They've been in this very position, this team. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Al Horford. You know what I'm saying? They've been in this position. A guy like Drew Holiday helped put him over the top. KP, those guys help put him over the top. But they've got some experience being here. They've got some chemistry, and that's something that we're building on this basketball team. But I don't think we have the same talent as they do, though. That's just my opinion. I don't think we're as talented. That's okay. We can still win in other ways. You know what I'm saying? We can still use the grit. We can still use that aggressiveness, that fire, that desire. We can still win using that. Kevin said we should start the double big lineup. We should start the double big lineup. Are they starting a double big lineup? I don't think so. I think they're going Derek White, Drew Holiday, KP, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. So if we go double big, who's guarding who? Right? If we go double big, you would have to put, Mitch or Cat's going to have to be on KP, and then who's the other one guarding? I don't know about that one. I'm not quite sure. I don't think you go double big unless they double big. That's what I think. You know what I mean? I just don't know who I just don't know the defensive matchups if we go double big. Yeah, I can't picture it. Can't picture it at all. Some keys to the game, and then I'm gonna roll off, and we're gonna go over to Queens Court. I think my big keys to the game is to be consistent offensively, right? We can't have droughts. We got to stay away from the droughts, and that's not always easy. This team isn't to me, they're not going to be as aggressive as the Detroit Pistons, right? They're not going to be that aggressive. So the Knicks might feel like they're breathing a little bit, right? But we got to stay away from the droughts. If we stay away from the droughts, then we can be consistent and we can score with them. If we have droughts, we're going to allow them to go on a 10-0 run, 12-0 run if we have droughts. Two 10-0, 12-0 runs in the game, and we're done. You know what I'm saying? So we got to stay away from the droughts. We got to be able to guard that pick and pop. Right? That's a staple for them, at least against the Knicks. So we got to be able to guard the pick and pop. Our bench, we need some bench production. We need some bench production. And if give Deuce this game, right? See if something happens. If not, then you may need to replace him. You shamming it, I guess. But Deuce hasn't been, I know he plays defense. I get it. But I don't think that's going to be the problem against this team. I think the problem is going to be offensively. Can we score with them consistently? You know what I'm saying? That's what I think defensively we're going to be okay. With Deuce or without Deuce, I think defensively we'll be okay. That's what I'm saying. I think we're going to need scoring in this series to win it. I think we're going to need more scoring than defense. And I don't know if I'm saying that right. We need defense, obviously, but we need to be able to score with these guys. So, Deuce might have to be on a short leash. You know what I mean? He might have to. I hope that Deuce comes out and hoops, but he might have to be on a short leash. You know what I'm saying? Rebound the basketball. We got to rebound the ball. We got to limit our turnovers because they will capitalize on those turnovers. And then we got to capitalize on any turnovers they have. They're going to be a low turnover team as well. We got to capitalize on those turnovers. Right? I mean, we both average 13 turnovers a game. They turn the ball over, we got to capitalize on it. Obviously, last but not least, we got to defend that three-point line. All season long, during the regular season, they killed us from the three-point line. They killed us. I mean, murdered us. We've got to defend that three-point line. They shoot 37.8% from three, but they shoot 40 plus 50, almost 53s. At least against us, they do. So we got to defend that three-point line. You know what I'm saying? Defend the three-point line. Those are my keys right there. Those are my keys. We do that, we give ourselves a chance. Now, I'll be doing predictions over on the prediction show on the Queen's Court, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to make sure my tech is right. So, I made some mistakes. I'm going to make sure the tech is right. So we straight. But before I get out of here, one last super chat. Jason Benjamin, thank you for the super chat. He said our bench doesn't contribute. If our bench doesn't contribute, we lose in 5. We need that bench. No doubt about it. We need the bench to contribute. You know what I mean? Ladies and gentlemen, we're 30 minutes away from the game. So for the next 30 minutes, we're going over to the Queen's Court so we can do a prediction show. All right? So I'm going to save my prediction for the Queen's Court, ladies and gentlemen. Catch us over there. Peace and love to everybody. Definitely see you on the post-game show. Well, you see me. I'll see you over at Queen's Court. Then after the game, we'll see you on the post-game show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm out of here. Peace.
This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When send past the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.